You've had Wendy's Nugs dipped in sauce, but have you had them covered in sauce? Wendy's new Saucy Nugs take the crispy and spicy nugs you love and turn them up to 11. Choose between flavors like buffalo, honey barbecue, garlic parmesan, or if you're a real heat seeker, try the spicy ghost pepper, I dare ya, or try the spicy variations of those other three flavors I just mentioned. Spicy honey barbecue feels like the play today. 7 delicious ways to try the nugs you already love. Pick a flavor, grab some extra napkins, and prepare to nug like you have never nugged before. For a whole new way to nug, it's got to be Wendy's. Welcome to Andy and Ari on 3. It is championship week. We got to pick some games. But Ari, there is still a lot to unpack from the weekend. We've got our first bit of politicking from a coach who's not playing in championship week as they try to rally the committee to their side. Lane Kiffin has reached out. He has note-zapped us. I love that. I appreciate the like he's bolding things, he's linking things. This is some good note-zap work by Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, I mean, this right here is the manifesto to what we were arguing about over the weekend. And guys, I just want everybody to know. I don't know if you're watching this, if you're listening, you could probably tell how good I sound.
Oh,
but Andy came to my house on Friday, and we got a new mic. Look at that, hands-free. I put the stand together this morning, and I think a infant could have figured that out. So
I'm so proud of you, though. You were so worried about putting the mic stand together. Like, we got your fire pit working on Friday night. You made fire.
I made fire.
Now you've put together a mic stand. Like, you are, like,
I'm him.
The testosterone is just flowing through you.
My wife has never been more attracted to me. She was just like, let's have another baby right now. You put that mic stand together, you can provide for this family. No, I feel good. I got a little sick over the weekend. It's been a long few days, but I am fired up, and I'm excited to see you guys in Nashville this weekend. I'm excited to get into it. So, the games this weekend are going to determine everything, as you know, but like at the same time too, I feel like the moving pieces have like really come into clear. Like I think we know how this is going to go. There's going to be one raging debate on Sunday, and we know which three teams it's going to be with. And let's get into that Lane Kiffin thing, because that Lane Kiffin manifesto that he posted has really good thoughts. And here's the thing: if you are a team, like I had a Miami fan named Kevin, my buddy, texting me Miami's manifesto last night, and it's like everybody can make a case that sounds great for their team, because you omit and you ignore the things that are going to hurt you in your case. But let's break this one down and actually see, Andy, if Ole Miss has a case to go in over Alabama, because if you guys have watched any of the shows this past few days, I have been very resistant to just the notion of, let's throw Alabama in there. Like I think that we can do better than that as a system, as a playoff, as a committee, and as fans. So why don't you go through it here?
Okay, and as you know, if you watched our bracketology video, Ari and I talked about this, and Ari asked me, who would you? Because I have Alabama in bracketology, and my reasoning for that is just watching the committee and what they've done this year and over the years. I think that's what they'll do. Ari said, who would you take? And I said, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin with his manifesto helping me make the case here. And so he's not even including Miami or a possible, SMU that lost the ACC championship, which he should worry about them too, but he's only worried about the SEC piece of it. He's got Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina he's comparing. He says South Carolina lost to both of them. Their best win is against Clemson. Ole Miss and Alabama's best win is against Georgia. Georgia beat Clemson 34-3. Safe to say South Carolina is out, and it's between Ole Miss and Alabama. I'm not sure if Lane Kiffin wrote this or if he's grabbed a screenshot of what somebody else wrote and is tweeting this.
I'm sure it's a screenshot from a message board, but
which is even better. I hope it's OM Spirit. I hope it's on 3's OM Spirit.
OM Spirit, amazing. But I think it would be better if he actually did it though, Andy, because like that means that
I know
time, and I want him to
I just want to see him like with his reading glasses on, just like, wait, how many? Okay, and his calculator's out as he's doing the outscript. Because Ole Miss has 9 wins.
A new respect for what we do, because it's not easy to come up with this stuff.
It's not that hard. All right. So he in his post, Ole Miss has 9 wins, outscoring their opponents 390 to 94. That's plus 296. Alabama has 9 wins, outscoring opponents 371 to 119. That's plus 252. In the 3 losses, Ole Miss was outscored 73 to 60. That's minus 13. In 3 losses, Alabama was outscored 88 to 55. That's minus 33. Common opponents both beat Georgia. The Rebels won by 18. Alabama won by 7. Both beat South Carolina. The Rebels won by 24. Alabama won by 2. Alabama beat LSU by 29. Ole Miss lost to LSU by 3 in overtime. Ole Miss beat Oklahoma by 12. Alabama lost to Oklahoma by 21. This says clearly Ole Miss that it's either Lane Kiffin or some message board poster that Lane Kiffin is cribbing off of and not crediting. Clearly, Ole Miss should be in the playoff over Alabama, but Bama is the bigger brand and more than likely will get in over Ole Miss. I love that Lane Kiffin includes this here because I don't know that a lot of coaches would do that, but he just likes to poke the tiger over and over.
That's the number one thing. You need to poke the bear. You want to.
Yeah.
I don't know if antagonizing the people is going to get you what you want, but at the same time too, it's like. You watch the games. I watch the games. We all here do. Like Alabama is, I think, in the betting odds, a slight favorite to make it, and Ole Miss isn't. And it's like, why? And I know that you're a big believer in the FPI and what that means.
I am not.
The committee.
The committee is a big believer in the FPI.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
But like that one metric, I think, is not the thing that tells the story of these two teams. And the reason why, and we can relitigate it now, but I put SMU in if they were to lose to Clemson over these is because it's the cleanest decision. But as you pointed out yesterday, that's not really important. So
yeah, a clean decision is not a good reason. So,
but if it were up to me, if I were the commissioner of college football and I could control who makes it, if we get into a decision between SMU, Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina, Ole Miss would be my pick. But I wouldn't really feel great about what it means for the other teams. It's just like as you read these lists, like they're very compelling, and everything he just wrote there makes a lot of sense. But it's like
I can write a list for Ole Miss, for Alabama, for South Carolina, for Miami, and if SMU loses to Clemson, for SMU. I can write a list for all of them that in the way I write it, you will go, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's who I want. But you can do that for all of them because they all have flaws. They're a reason why they're all here. So that they have to pick one of them.
But I think
they're going to pick one of them.
The prevailing thought that you hit me with yesterday, and it's true, and you had to remind me of it. When we moved to the 12-team playoff system, I said that no matter who gets screwed at the end, because we did tell you, or I did at least, in the middle of the season that this was going to happen, that there were going to be more teams who felt they deserved to get in than there are spots. But if you are in the position where you do get left out and you feel screwed, just remind yourself, like, you don't feel bad for those teams in the same way that you felt bad for Florida State last year. I think it's very different. Because as you read the manifesto that Lane posted, the only thing that I kept hearing in the back of my head was, you lost to Kentucky, you lost to Kentucky, you lost to Kentucky. And that's not a bash on Ole Miss, because if Kalen DeBoer posted a manifesto, I would be like, you scored 3 points at Oklahoma, you scored 3 points at Oklahoma, you scored, like, all the teams that are here have something like that. Now, I don't know if South Carolina has something as embarrassing. And maybe that's a selling point for South Carolina.
Don't they have a 24-point loss to Ole Miss?
But they do have a 24-point. Yeah, but like losing by 24 to a really good team is.
Well, they also had Sellers was limited.
Yeah,
Rocket Sanders was hurt.
What do you think was more? Let's like key in on the word here. What do you think is more embarrassing, like losing to NIU or losing to Ole Miss by 24? Like I think losing to NIU is more embarrassing.
Right.
So, like
we're not even arguing about them.
Yeah, but from an embarrassment standpoint, and the ACC championship game has not happened yet, so we don't know. What if SMU comes out and loses by 30? Like, I guess it could happen. Probably won't, but it could.
I want to point out Eric's comment in the chat. SMU is in if they lose. Let's stop trying to make it interesting for clicks/views. Eric, we're not trying to make it interesting. I'm telling you right now, if SMU
just
loses,
is interesting.
it will be a legitimate argument in the committee room. Like, they're not automatically in.
I think that there is an assumption that they're automatically in. And as I was doing Bubble Watch on Sunday morning, Andy, I put them in. Like, it's right there. Like, you can see.
Let's not assume that the committee will put the ACC team with fewer losses in the playoff. Did last year not teach you anything?
And when we got into the videos that we did on the On3 channel, like, Andy talked me off of that. So, like, I think that this is how I think it could play out this way, but there's no amount of certainty to that bracket. That's just the best I could come up with.
Yeah.
And I got a little froggy a little bit with it. Like, UNLV being there, for instance, is not a popular thing you're going to see. So, I
don't know. I went back and looked at we're going to pick the games and we'll talk about that. But I went back and looked at the stats of that first UNLV Boise State game. If Barry Odom brings what he brought the first time around, there's a good chance you might be right. So this is going to be an interesting week, though, because we're going to talk about the people who are playing in the games this week. But right now, we're talking about the ones that aren't. Lane Kiffin is one of them. Like, is Kalen DeBoer going to come? Here's my question. If you're first, because Nick Saban would always politic in a time like this. Like 2017, they just lost to Auburn. They're not playing a championship game. He's politicking to get themselves, get Alabama in over Ohio State. Can Kalen DeBoer do that as the first year coach? Like, would he do that? I mean, it's part of the job. But are we going to see a Kalen DeBoer manifesto? Shane Beamer, with the creativity of South Carolina's video team, I'm ready for a banger of a South Carolina manifesto hype video. I'm ready for that.
I was actually moved the most by Shane Beamer's plea, because at least Shane Beamer acknowledged the elephant in the room during his, right, which is we have 3 losses, and I know when you have 3 losses, like that is, the thing that I have a hard time with, and it happens to me on Twitter a lot, Andy, too, as you know, I am prone to the meltdown, is I know and understand that everybody who has a favorite team is going to fight like hell and post and argue like hell to make their team look the best and to fight in politics for their team. I think that's what's so beautiful about the debate. The thing that I don't like, which you see a lot on social media, not so much in here, because I think the people who watch the show are seasoned and smarter than that, is when people like leave reality. Like, my number one pet peeve in life is irrationality. And like that to me is like off-putting. So when you have an argument, but you're also willing and able to acknowledge the downside of those things, like, I am more prone to vibe with your message than I am otherwise. So
AJ, just give us the objective metrics that the committee uses to rank the teams, please. They don't have objective metrics. They choose the ones they want to choose.
Oh, he's joking. Yeah, he said there aren't any. It would be.
Yeah.
The thing that is interesting is that if you got to a place where there was just if you had tiebreakers and data the way that they do with how to determine who plays for a conference championship game, then there would be no need for a committee, because then it would just be data and anybody could break it down, right? Like the committee exists specifically to make decisions that are bigger and deeper than data. So
also, if everything was competitively balanced and the schedules were competitively balanced, you could compare them more easily, but you can't. You can't even compare schedules within the same conference easily.
You know what I don't understand, because this is a bad at math podcast, and I'll have you help me out with this, is that I wrote a column on Friday that got a lot of people upset. And, maybe it'll turn out to be wrong. Yeah. But just go with me on this for a second, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just say I'm 1,000% right about the SEC, and that the SEC is just above average or average in comparison to what it's been in the past. How does strength of schedule work if the perception of that schedule is off to begin with? It's like, if we viewed the ACC through the same lens in which we viewed the SEC in the past, wouldn't those numbers be skewed? Like, it's not just based on record and stats, like, right? Like, isn't it based on ranking and like the subjectivity of the strength of schedule thing is also contaminated by notions that may not be true. So like that.
Can I throw one more thing at you though before we continue with that, because it's relevant to what you wrote Friday. Our pal David Hale from ESPN put this out this morning. Out of conference records by conference.
Yeah, SEC is good, right? They're the best at it.
Yeah, the only one that was above 500 and was well over 500. So for the folks, let's read it. These are your Power 4 out of conference records for the different conferences. The ACC was 9-17 against other power conference teams. The Big 12 was 7-10. The Big 10 was 6-9, and the SEC was 13-7. Are we sure the SEC sucked?
That is interesting and certainly important. I don't know if I would also like make conclusions based on that metric, just because like, what if I don't know what the games were? It's like if Purdue and Minnesota got their asses kicked, like I don't think that really does anything to sway me. You know what I mean? Like how many more games did like the SEC
there's not one you remember other than Clemson, Georgia.
Yeah, it's like
that was huge.
The only ones I'm concerned with is what if we redid that and it might turn out that the SEC is still better, but what if you only took in records of the top half of the conference? Like, would it be the same? You know, like how much can the numbers be skewed by like one bad team, like, or one team or a cluster of teams at the bottom? Like, what if Mississippi State didn't play as many non-conference opponents?
Well, you've got Mississippi State losing to Arizona State. You've got Florida canceling out because they lost to Miami and
I'm saying is
I'm sorry, they beat UCF, so they're 2-1. Yeah,
data can is malleable. You can take data and be like, hey,
but what I'm saying, Ari, is this is the data every year. This happens every year.
Oh, sure, yeah, no, and like, listen.
So is this year that different than other years? Is what I'm asking you.
But I also don't think that the SEC. Like the point of my column wasn't even like, if you read it, you know.
No, I agree with you. Like I have eyes.
I know, but also too, the SEC could be the best conference in America, but it still might not mean that the teams in the middle of that conference deserve a benefit of the doubt in the way that they have in the past. Just because you're the best doesn't mean you're as elite as you've been, and the way that they've been elite for the last 20 years has guided our viewpoint on how to rank these teams. And I think it also contaminates the strength of schedule metrics. Like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If all the teams are ranked higher because people who vote or people who rank them have preconceived notions of how great they've been in the past, then of course their strength of schedule is going to be more.
Hey, can I throw something else at you? Because this is another thing people just can't seem to wrap their brains around. Goat Dog in the chat, and I'm not making fun of you, Goat Dog, on purpose. It just I know what you're thinking, but you got to think about it differently. South Carolina is the best looking 3-loss team right now with a win over a potential conference champ. And the potential conference champ Goat Dog is talking about is Clemson. You do know that Alabama and Ole Miss also have wins over a potential conference champ named Georgia.
What do you think of this here, Andy, from Goat Dog?
November ball is greater than September ball? Great. Ole Miss beat Georgia in November.
But as it pertains to the stats you were just reading.
Okay. The SEC won most of those games in November, I guess. So that is helping not your argument?
The non-conference games, I was saying.
That's what I'm talking about.
Most of the games that they played in November against non-conference opponents.
The SEC won? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess like the Georgia Tech number and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Georgia beat Georgia Tech.
Yeah. Also, too, in those
Florida
numbers,
beat Florida State. Now, Louisville did beat Kentucky. They finally beat Kentucky, but South Carolina beat Clemson. So they were 3-1. The SEC was 3-1 in those games.
Yeah. So let me ask you this too, because I love just talking this. Like, I'm just like, I know we have a schedule and stuff, but like, I'm just talking to you like a friend. Okay. So, when you look at the SEC's stats there, and then you see that they got a 1 in the win column with Georgia's win over Georgia Tech, right? Like
Mhm.
that game is like a definitive like boon in the data for the SEC. But
No,
how
it's not.
much do you,
It's an 8 overtime game.
it's an 8 overtime game, but it's a 1-0 in the data that you were reading. It didn't matter what it looked like.
Okay.
Which brings me to my question. How big of a proponent are you with the eye test? And do you think that it should...
I'm a huge proponent of the eye test.
Yeah.
See, I think the people who are like, the eye test shouldn't matter. No, the eye test should matter a lot.
So in terms of eye test, if you just want to go throw all the bullshit away, all the numbers, who beat who, whatever.
Yeah.
From a purely eye test standpoint, South Carolina should probably go.
Right? Ole Miss should go.
We agree on that?
Ole Miss.
Well, no, because Ole Miss's loss to Florida is still part of the eye test. Like you can't just be like, well, Ole Miss.
Yeah, I also saw Ole Miss kick the crap out of Georgia. I also saw Ole Miss kick the crap out of Georgia the week before. So your eyes and my eyes are different, and my eyes say Ole Miss.
They're all part of
my eyes say Ole Miss. Your eyes say South Carolina.
The reason why my eyes don't say Ole Miss because I fell in love with Ole Miss in Oxford. You know what happened to me there.
Yeah,
but if you're gonna do the eye test, you got to use all of the eye test. You can't just be blind to.
Well, my eyes saw Ole Miss kick the crap out of South Carolina as well. My eyes didn't miss that game. My eyes saw South Carolina crush Oklahoma. My eyes saw that. That was awesome.
These eyes are never gonna love like you.
I knew you were going there.
My eyes saw the Oklahoma-Alabama game, and my eyes saw the Ole Miss Florida game. And it's been a long time since my
eyes also saw LSU South Carolina.
Let me ask you this. This is just
my eyes also saw LSU Ole Miss.
Ari's
and LSU Alabama, which all had different results.
Your life depends on it.
Yes.
Okay? We're not even talking about like a stake bet here. I'm talking about just like you actually betting.
Right. Okay.
And I gotta say, like this no hands thing with the mic is like I'm like so relaxed right now. I feel like I could just like have a whiskey.
I know you you started the show with I don't have a voice. We got to make sure we get this in an hour. This show's going to go 3 hours at this rate.
Yeah, you should have heard me this morning. Who do you actually think if there was a battle royale with these teams where they all just played each other? And
the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, or whatever they do in wrestling. Also, I think if you watch wrestling, that's up there with sci-fi as I don't get it.
We know.
Who do you think would win the battle royale between Ole Miss, South Carolina, Miami, and SMU in Alabama?
You're gonna hate this answer.
No,
but it's the true answer.
If that's what you actually think.
Whoever's the best on that day, like whoever's having a good day that day, because none of them are consistent, and that's the problem.
But if they all
not one of them is consistent.
Like if they did like an NBA play-in tournament with these teams and they all played each other, and I know that's impossible.
The results would feel entirely random because none of them are consistent, which is why they're here and not definitely in the playoff.
It really is it really is an impossible decision. It really is. Okay, so I don't know if we're going to pick these games now, but can I take you through 2 other thoughts that I had over the weekend?
Sure. We'll push the coaching discussion to tomorrow because the coaching discussion can wait till tomorrow. But first, let me tell everybody about Panini America. Makers of the most collectible sports cards on the planet. The Luminance Football Card Series features NIL autograph cards from players including Arch Manning, Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Jalen Milroe, Dylan Raiola, DJ Lagway, and Luther Burden. To start collecting, visit PaniniAmerica.net. I've got this Donruss Elite box that I still owe Ari. I forgot to bring it to him, maybe on purpose. I got my Aronde Gadsden II autograph card. This is the only NIL one that I've pulled out of a pack so far. But I've also pulled some other really good cards. I got this Cooper Kupp autograph that I pulled. Was pretty spectacular. I got a gold Puka Nacua. I got this rookie one that I've got to do the scratch off.
That's the mystery redemption.
Yeah, the mystery redemption. I got to scratch it off. What we got, Ari?
Oh, these are just some cards I got back from PSA. There's Bryce Young, silver, rated rookie out of Optic, and this guy's back. He's back and better than ever.
He's getting hot again.
I've been buying a lot of Bryce Young and Will Levis cards, just kind of hoping that because they're cheap as hell right now and they're still starters and hoping they have like good ends of the season. And then in the off season, I'm going to try to flip them into bigger cards. I got this Geno Smith Contenders from 2013 rookie autograph. You never know what Geno. I think that I took a shot on this. Maybe I'll lose money on that one, but I like that one.
Geno's like the teams we were just talking about. Like, it really depends on the week.
I got this cracked ice Patrick Mahomes that I ripped out of a Contenders optic box. I went and bought this one at the store last week. And that one is like, whenever you get stuff that is just like short printed, this is to 22 of the GOATs. You just hold that forever because that thing's going to be a monster. Mahomes' legacy is already made. And I just thought this card was beautiful and I loved him in college. And I hope that he continues to have a resurgence or a surge. Is this color match Rashad Bateman purple pulsar out of Prism? And that's a PSA 9. So like I'm holding on to and I'm just like showing people that this Panini thing isn't an act. Like this is like,
oh, I think they know.
I'm into this. I got an email from a listener asking with a picture of a card saying, "Hey, what do you think this is worth?"
Well, First Comes Rock wants to know if he starts collecting, what website, what service should you use to figure out what cards are good and valuable?
So first of all, I would buy my cards directly from Panini because with Panini, you have to understand that these cards are very sought after, and it's the same thing with everything, like especially like during COVID. If more people want it than the demand exists, then obviously resale makes it really hard to get them. And a lot of times, if you go to a card shop to buy a hobby box or something from the card shop, they will charge you more than it would to get directly from Panini, which makes it hard to get your money back because the values of the boxes are inflated. And they're inflated because there's the chance of getting big time rookies. And people want the box just to have the chance to do it. It's the reason why a 1986 Fleer basketball box is like $100,000 or whatever it is now, because there's could be a Michael Jordan card in there.
Right.
It's not 100, but you get what I'm saying. So I would go to hobby shops, but I would definitely go directly to the PaniniAmerica.net and try to get the boxes that you like directly from them, because that's the best deal you're going to get on them. But if you are interested in collecting, email me. I'll help you out with it. Like there's a whole guide to. If I told you how much money I've spent learning hard lessons in this hobby, your eyes would roll in the back of your head. So there's smarter ways to do it, and buying it directly from Panini is a good start if you can get the boxes when they sell them there.
Beautiful. Beautiful. PaniniAmerica.net is the address. Hit it hard. All right. Okay. You had a couple more points on this. So, programming note: if you saw in the description, we're going to talk about some of these job openings. We're going to do that tomorrow because Ari brought up something interesting the other day when we were talking about the West Virginia job. And I kind of want to talk about the West Virginia job and the Purdue job and the North Carolina job and the UCF job. We can do that tomorrow. We're talking playoff right now. Playoffs, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, I still think there's stuff to unpack from the weekend, but also, too, just a preview of that discussion. I am high on what the Purdue job could be. And I'm going to leave it at that because of the conference it's in, the money it's coming in, and what Curt Cignetti did at Indiana.
I'm excited to talk about it tomorrow. But tell me what's next, though, because you said you had a couple more things on this playoff situation.
So, no, one playoff question, or one. Actually, neither of them are playoff, but it's all big picture stuff. So we talked a lot about Ryan Day over the weekend, and when I came home last night, my wife, God love her, she does not care about college football, but she cares about me, and she wanted me to explain the playoff system and how it works and where I'm going to be. And we got into a discussion about my column because she saw it in my Instagram story and read it. And she goes, isn't Ryan Day really nice? Don't you like him? Why would you write something mean about somebody you like? And we talked about this on the show, but I just said, liking somebody and being objective and real is part of the job. You can't not write things. There's a lot of things I've written about people I like that, it's part of it, but also it's part of the salary. But it also got us into a discussion about like Urban Meyer, because we were dating when I was covering Urban Meyer and all those things. And she goes, so he's just really nice, and basically came to the conclusion that you came to in the column that you wrote when we went in September, which is he too nice to be Ohio State's coach? And you know what hit me like a ton of bricks? You know who else is really nice?
Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That hit me in bed right before we watched Landman last night, and it kind of like I felt like I had vertigo.
Oh boy.
But it's like, did Alabama hire somebody who's too nice?
Now, Kalen DeBoer did make the national championship game last year.
Well, Ryan
and did not
once.
Did not see that's true. And Kalen DeBoer did not seem particularly nice when he was beating Dan Lanning twice last year. So
and I know Ryan Day better than I know Kalen DeBoer, but I've had a few interactions with Kalen DeBoer, and he's like the nicest human being ever. So I don't know if there's any correlation between that, but I do wonder if in 2 years we'll be asking if he's too nice for the Alabama job.
Well, I do want to I want to see Kalen DeBoer politic, because Nick Saban would have politicked. Like, now's your chance. That's part of the job. It may seem beneath you, but it's part of the job. And it wasn't beneath Nick Saban, who's the greatest of all time. So, yeah, I am ready for your version of the politicking. Again, Shane Beamer, I'm expecting something fun this week. I think that's going to happen. You know who doesn't have to politic, Ari? Which is interesting to me. Who's in a totally different position now than we assumed he would be a month ago is James Franklin.
Oh, yeah, he's electric.
James Franklin can win the freaking Big Ten now.
He can. Big game for him before we pick this game. But like, he has an opportunity to completely and utterly change a thought process about him that was very unflattering a month ago. So, one other question, Andy, and then I'll stop hijacking your show.
It's our show. You may take it wherever you wish.
You're the host. I don't want to hijack it.
We're
too
co-hosts.
Much. But here's another thing that hit me before bed last night. How much is a field goal kicker worth in the NIL market? And I don't mean just any field. I don't mean any field goal kicker. I mean like a badass one that can hit you a 55-yard one, like the one that Michigan had the last few years or last year. I'm
gonna text Nakos as soon as the show's over, and get that information for us, and then we'll talk about it tomorrow, because I am fascinated by that too. That's a great question. Now remember, Alabama took the Lou Groza Award winner from Miami of Ohio last year.
Ohio State. Because I was thinking a lot about Ryan Day and Ohio State over the weekend. If they had I can't remember the kid's name from Michigan that was just bombing 55-yarders like it was nothing last year. I think he's in the NFL now. I can't remember his name. If they had that guy the last 3 years and spent a bunch of money on a field goal kicker, they might have a national title and a win over Michigan.
Jake Moody is the kicker.
Jake Moody. Yeah. And now he's on the 49ers, and people like want his cards and stuff. Like, he is a legit.
It all comes back to Panini.
It all comes back down to right. But Jake Moody, if you needed a 61-yard field goal, that guy was going to bomb it through the uprights like it was nothing. It could be in the middle of a blizzard, and that guy was going to bury it. And like, this is going to sound like Ohio State excuse making. It's not. They deserve to lose. If you miss the field goal, that's part of the game. You deserve to lose. But if Ohio State had Jake Moody against against Georgia a few years ago, and he buries that, they probably beat TCU and win a national title. And if they had a field goal kicker that could kick 20-yard field goals like the one that they missed instead of a preferred walk-on, it struck me as funny and ironic that this team spent reportedly $20 million on their roster, and they don't have a kicker that can kick a field goal that is like basically 5 yards further than the extra point. And if they would have had a badass kicker who you could rely on to bury 50-yard field goals with regularity, how much money would that be worth? And I think that's a discussion to
discuss. I mean,
like, you think about how
I'm sure the market is probably I'm sure the market is probably low six figures, but in reality, in this particular situation, like a win against Michigan this year is worth at least $1 million.
Like, would you and like think about how much the difference, like think about how much money is at stake for Ohio State with this roster, with its fan buy-in, with the trophies that it could have with its coach's buyout. Like, if the difference is between that and a kicker, like, the margins of this game are really small. And like, it's not just an Ohio State discussion, Andy. Teams lose all the time because of bad kicks.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you can find the best kicker in college football, I mean, like, think about how much that can be weaponized in a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think people appreciate that enough. So those are the two thoughts that I had. We can pick the games now, but this is how my brain works when we're not on the show. Like, I'm thinking about this stuff all the time.
I appreciate that. Before we talk about that, let's talk about the games themselves. And do you want to go to these games? Because you can. Gametime has tickets to all of these conference championship games, including the Big Ten championship game, which you can get into for as little as $19. That's right. The Buckeyes fans have flooded the market with the tickets. So Penn State fans, now's your chance. Go to Indy. If you can't get into St. Elmo, Harry and Izzy shares a kitchen. It's the same shrimp cocktail. The steaks are also very good. I'm telling you right now, the money you save on a ticket, like, remember, $20 off your first purchase with the code Staples. Terms apply, of course. But you could buy a pair of tickets, and one of them is basically free if you're doing this. So, Big Ten championship game, hot ticket, plenty of good seats still available, and you can get in there. The ACC championship game, get in price for that one in Charlotte, which is a big one. As low on the GT Picks feature as $55, but you can get really good seats for around $100 for this game. So go to Gametime, download the app, use the code Staples, $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ari, I realize we're going to be in Nashville this weekend, but Indy, we could go like with a couple $20 bills in our pockets, and we're good to go.
I had the Harry and Izzy's cocktail sauce, and I'm not about that life. I ate too much of it, and it blew my face off.
Oh, it's amazing. We made
good.
Producer River try it. The first, like his second week on the job, I thought he was going to die.
Because everybody goes to St. Elmo for the shrimp cocktail, but I don't think that anybody knows that it's the same thing at the other place. Like,
I think everybody knows that who's been to Indy, who hasn't been able to get into St. Elmo. So,
but then why is it so easy to get into Harry and Izzy's all the time?
It's a larger dining room.
Yeah, we ate there together once. Do you remember?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm a big Harry and Izzy's fan
for this game because I assume that the Penn State contingent's going to be ready to fly there, right? Like, or are they going to save their money for the playoff run? That's the hardest thing for the ticket prices of these games. It's like talking to people who want to go. It's like, yeah, I'm not going to go to the conference championship game, or
right.
I want to save my money for the playoff.
I think if you're Penn State, though, you're feeling very comfortable that they are going to host, which obviously you're going to have to pay for your tickets to that, but you're probably already a Penn State season ticket holder. Like, you have your setup when you go to games in State College. So this one might be one that's kind of fun to go to, especially if you live in Western PA. That's not a terrible drive to Indy. If you live in Philly, you probably want to fly. But I think this is a good opportunity to go see a fun game. Listen, Indianapolis, if you have not been, is a great big event town. Great big event town. So
that we have this graphic up, Andy, it reminded me, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, I can't remember, but what Joey McGuire said, the SEC championship game, there's a Big 12 team that has a chance to win it. The Big 10 has a Pac-12 team with a chance to win it. The ACC has a American team that has a chance to win it, and the Big 12 has a Pac-12 team with a chance to win it. Isn't that funny?
It's amazing. So yes, you could have newcomers win all four of the power conferences, which is what
is the Big 12 better than the SEC? My column.
Well, I do love this because that is a question. That's a mailbag question we got early in the season. We're like, no, it really could happen.
It happened. Literally happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. All right, let's pick the games. Let's start out, though. We're going to get some shine to the conferences that we don't always give shine to, because some of these are really interesting. What I think the most interesting of those other conference championship games that don't have any impact on the playoff is Conference USA. Western Kentucky at Jacksonville State. The other Gamecocks are a 4.5-point favorite in this game. They just played on Saturday, Ari. They played at Western Kentucky on Saturday. Western Kentucky won on a 50-yard field goal with 30 seconds to go, or with 3 seconds to go.
Yeah. I want to hear your take, man. Do you have a big take on this?
Oh, this is see. You guys want to know what Ari's doing here? Ari's not prepared He's checking to see if I'm prepared. Of
No,
course
no, no,
I'm
I'm
prepared, Ari, because
I'll go
I
first.
know that Jacksonville State quarterback Tyler Huff went down in the third quarter of that Western Kentucky game. Former Nebraska QB Logan Smothers came in.
Andy
Did not go particularly well.
Andy.
No, I know
I want you
you're a
to know.
degenerate. I know you love the Gamecocks and the Hilltoppers.
Andy.
Mm-hmm.
The internet was down in the press box, and I was having a hard time with it. Right?
Yeah.
On Saturday. I want to know why.
Because you had money on the game.
I had Jacksonville State plus 2.5, and we covered by the book. Don't tell me I'm not prepared and I don't know what's going on in these games. Okay?
Touche, sir. Touche.
Yeah, like this is. I don't know if I would be as good at this job if gambling didn't exist, but like I am constantly, watching and a part of these types of things, and like I have loved Jacksonville State all year. Like watching them play, they light up scoreboards, and I know that they came up short a few times this year, but man, like when they are humming, dude, they are really good.
Yeah. It sounds like Smothers is going to have to play. Rich Rod was non-committal, but it looks like an ankle for Huff. So it seems like Smothers is going to have to play. But again, it's not easy to beat the same team twice in 7 days. And this one is at Jacksonville State, because Jacksonville State, the way Conference USA works is you have a host situation. It's not a neutral site. So, yeah, give me Rich Rod making his pitch to go back to West Virginia as the conquering hero.
Don't like Jacksonville State here. I love them. And it's not just because they're good, but everything you said about the quarterback position, the hope is that he'll come back. But also, too, I mean, I put UNLV in the college football playoff because I have a hard time. And I also think I would have picked Ohio State to beat Oregon had they beaten Michigan by 1, because I'm just a firm believer that beating the same team twice, like I think, like I'm not trying to give you away like the SEC, but like it's really, really hard to beat the same team twice in the same year, let alone the same freaking week. Like,
yeah, exactly. And you're away instead of at home, and you won in an emotional way, and they lost their starting quarterback in the middle of the game. Like, yeah,
still covered like badasses that they are.
This is more a spot, like to what you said last week. This is more a spot than analysis of the two teams.
Yeah, no, Jacksonville State by 1 million.
All right, I also will take Jacksonville State to cover. Let's move on to the American Championship game, because this is like a Brent Musburger, you are looking live situation. So does everybody know why Brent Musburger would say you are looking live on the NFL Today in the 80s and the 70s? The reason he would say, I guess it was just the 80s. The reason he would say that is he was talking to the gamblers. This is when it was taboo to talk about gambling on national television. He was talking to the gamblers to say, this is a live shot of a stadium where they're going to play the game in 30 minutes. Get a big snootful of the weather and place your bets accordingly. Army winning and clinching home field in this matters. Army beat UTSA the other day. Tulane lost to Memphis on Thursday night. This game's at Michie Stadium. The high on Friday in West Point is 31. The low's 21. It's going to be freaking cold. Tulane, I say this as someone who grew up in the South, who's never lived north of Knoxville, Tennessee. Sometimes us Southern boys are not built for that.
Knoxville gets pretty cold, though, doesn't it?
It does, but not West Point cold, and not offensive linemen cutting you all the time and the quarterback pounding you every play cold. So Tulane defense, you better be strapped up and ready to go, because this is not going to be a comfortable game.
Yeah. I mean, just like the thought of being a defensive lineman for Tulane just gives me the willies. But I'm soft.
This is built for Army to win. Now, I wonder with Tulane, how much of that Memphis is a good team also. Like both of those teams were 9-2 in that game. How much of that was just Memphis was better on that day? How much of that is Tulane putting its eggs in the basket of gotta win this one? Because remember, if Tulane had beaten Memphis, there still would have been an outside shot that Tulane could make the college football playoff. Now they're not going to make it, even if they win this game.
Well, it's an
Army
interesting
still
thought
might.
because I actually think that, we did discuss like Army's outside shot here.
Yeah.
If they were to win this game. And like, honestly speaking, Andy, like they are only a 4.5-point dog. Like this could be a real debate come Sunday. Like we haven't spent enough time on this because there's assumption that Boise's just going to win and go. But if UNLV wins and Army wins, there's going to be a real debate. But I will have a hot take for you.
Yeah.
If Tulane would have beaten Memphis and then Tulane would have been the 2-loss conference champion, I think Tulane would have gone over UNLV, and I would have put Tulane in my bracket.
Quite possible.
I
now
think the perception of this is really impacted by the offense that Army plays. But go ahead.
The other interesting piece of this is John Summerall is up for every open job.
Yep.
Not necessarily because he's putting his name out there, but because people aren't stupid. He won 2 conference championships at Troy. His first year at Tulane, he's got them in the conference championship game. The ADs at North Carolina, Purdue, West Virginia, UCF are not dumb. Like they want to at least talk to him. And so I don't think the Tulane players are dumb either. Like they understand what's going on here. So that adds another wrinkle to this. Like, and look, Jeff Monken has been up for jobs over the years too. It doesn't sound like he is right now, but I feel like Army may be more locked in here than Tulane. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And again,
I mean,
John Summerall has led a team to like it was Troy, but has won 2 consecutive conference title games as a head coach.
Yeah. The weather thing, the job thing, it's all interesting, and Army is really good. Tulane is a covering machine most weeks, and they are a really fun team to watch. So, like, are you going to pick which team you think is better, or are you going to pick which circumstances are harder for the team? Because, like,
I'm going to go.
Like, I think Tulane is better.
I'm going to go harder circumstances. I'm going to take Army to cover. If you're going to give me 4.5 points, give me Army to cover.
Yeah, what's like the low in New Orleans like at this time of year?
It's probably pretty cold today because it's
like,
cold throughout the South.
Is it like 35 today, or are they going from 60 to this?
They'll get into freezing temperatures at times. But the low today is only 40. The low today is 46. It's warmer in New Orleans than it is where I am. So yeah, it's not getting that cold this week. These guys and most of them are
Darian Mensah sling it around the yard this year or what?
Oh, Darian Mensah is awesome. And I think this is part of the problem, like this time of year, because there's a lot of fan bases going, "Oh, if John Summerall is our coach, is Darian Mensah our quarterback? Or if Ben Craddock is our offensive coordinator, is Darian Mensah our quarterback?" Like that. There's a lot of fan bases thinking about that too. That's another factor here. You know who's not thinking about the transfer portal at all? Army. They don't take transfers. They can't.
Transfer portal, but they're like going to the Army.
All right. Well, no, they chose to go to the Army when they signed. So
they're in the portal to the U.S. military. I'm going to take Tulane here. All right. But I do think what you always talk about in terms of Boise and potentially being a top 4 seed is that UNLV is already ranked ahead of Army. So if UNLV beats Boise, then that's probably just a discussion that's not happening.
I think that's one I feel like the committee could be like, "Oh crap, we forgot to rank Army near UNLV," and we'll just
so they could do that with this, but not in the other circumstances. Like the Big 12 going in the top 4.
I don't think they're going to do that with Boise State because they're so far below right now. Like they've had a chance to move those guys up. Surely they've thought about it. All right,
we have to make a bet about the Big 12, by the way.
Yes.
Like if Boise State wins, I will bet you something between Friday and Sunday that the Big 12 is ranked.
All right, everybody come up with some stakes for this one.
I can just I want to run with you in Nashville, and you can bring my box like you were supposed to last time.
There we go. 10
or I can
for Ari. Double or nothing.
Or I can, you know what, this would be the equivalent of like if you win the bet this time and I say I'll go on a run with you, I'll just forget my running shoes.
There you go. I'm bringing the box. I'm also bringing Producer Rivers' Joe Milton autograph card.
I actually think it would be okay if you just open them during the reads so that like I can just see it, because like I don't even want to, like the weight to open it is bothering me. I just want you to open
it. And then I can just say whatever you want out of here, you get.
Yeah, and then you can throw away all the other stuff because, like, a lot of the cards in there are worthless. You're looking for the hits. So,
all right. So,
yeah,
we're going to talk about the Mountain West Conference Championship game next. But first, let's talk PrizePicks, best daily fantasy game in America. Download the app. Use the code Staples when you sign up. Play $5, get $50 instantly. Monday Night Football tonight. Oh boy, Bo Nix, baby. Are you a believer? Are you taking Bozempic? Jameis Winston. This is going to be a fun one. Nick Chubb against the Denver defense, which is pretty good. So the college football board is going to get populated later this week. But right now, we got NFL, NBA, college basketball, and of course, Monday Night Football. So Bo Nix, 224.5 passing yards against the Browns. What do you think is going to happen? Jameis Winston, will he eat the dub? 230.5 passing yards. More or less, you pick the square. You pick as few as 2 squares. The more squares you pick, the higher the potential payout. It's PrizePicks. Download the app. Use the code Staples. Play $5. Get $50 instantly when you sign up. Ari, let us go to the blue. UNLV at Boise State. I went back through the box score of the first game. The first game was a lot of fun. It was a Friday night game. It was like a 10:30 Eastern kickoff. Boise won 29-24. And it was one of those games where it didn't look like anything happened in the fourth quarter. But what happened was Boise State just ground out the game. And if you look, it's Ashton Genty's toughest game of the year. Ashton Genty was held to 3.9 yards a carry in this game. But he carried when it mattered at the end and allowed Boise State to run out the clock. And also, I think this was the first really good Maddox Madsen game of the year. And I think Maddox Madsen has played some really good games down the stretch. But this is the one where you're like, okay, now we see why they picked this guy to be the starting QB.
Yeah, do you remember this? It feels like it's been a long time. I mean, hell, October 26th feels like a year ago. But I wrote about this game at like 2 a.m. because it was on it started like at 10 p.m. And my takeaway from this game, even though it was Ashton Genty's toughest game, was that he was maybe one of the 5 best running backs of the CFP era, like in totality, not just like this year, but
which I think is bearing out. You're going to say like him, Melvin Gordon, Adrian Peterson. Like I think
the names I came up with
were
Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Ezekiel Elliott, Travis Etienne, Najee Harris, Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor, and Bijan Robinson.
Like, yeah, I think Melvin Gordon belongs on that list too.
And Melvin Gordon. But the reason why I wrote that is not because of the 90-yard touchdown runs where he made a man miss and ran untouched. It was the 14-play drive at the end that killed the entire clock that was on the game, and Genty touched the ball 8 times, and 3 of those plays were kneel downs. So like 8 of the 11 plays on that drive, he touched it.
Yeah.
And that's like, that to me is like a very important thing. And I actually think that Boise State being the first G5 representative in the expanded playoff is like super like poetic justice. Yeah, like just based on how they carry.
They might be in the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah, right. Not me. I wonder if anybody will write about the Statue of Liberty that week. But
that
said, I think the Genty mania has, and again, I don't know if I'm wrong about this, but if like how we actually believe that Boise is a top 15 team in America, do we? Top 15 team.
Do we? I think it's a legitimate question.
Okay.
The committee does.
Been playing well. They have been playing well.
Yeah.
And there are players on UNLV that don't get talked about at all that are really, really good. So, like I am obsessed with Ricky White. I have him in my dynasty fantasy football league, and I drafted him last year or the year before because we have got Devy players. Mm-hmm. And I've just been like licking my chops watching this kid play. The guy scores at every game, basically, makes game altering plays and special teams, blocks punts.
Well, since Haj Malik Williams became the starting QB, because remember Ricky White was not playing that well when it was Luka Doncic.
Like, I don't think that Haj Malik Williams is like Cam Newton out there, but he can run and throw well. Like, I mean, he can make plays. So I think it's a very nice situation for Boise that the game is on the blue. I think that the entire country has forgotten and underestimated UNLV in the time since October 26th. That's my opinion. So to stick with my mantra, which is it's hard to beat the same team twice, I think that UNLV is as good of a team as Boise. And I think that they could win this game. So I'm going to pick UNLV to win. I'm not going to take the points. And I already picked it with my bracket, but I'm going to pick them to win outright.
Oh, a little UNLV money line. I'm going to take Boise State to cover because I think Maddox Matson's been playing really well. I think Barry Odom will come up with a way to keep Ashton Genty from going crazy, but you don't completely contain Ashton Genty. You can't. You will not bottle him
what's
up.
the rushing total that,
150 yards. He may run. He may carry 30 times for 150 yards, and just like before, or win. They won last time. Boise State's defense played really well last time.
Like the containing of Ashton Genty is a relative notion, though. It's like I don't think that UNLV is coming into the game thinking they're going to hold him to 37 yards. Like he's going to get his.
Right.
It's how do you win the game and how do you stop him from turning the
thing is
gain into an 80-yard touchdown? Like that.
Boise State has in the past few weeks shown the ability to, even if because remember Genty had to go to the injury tent a couple weeks ago, and I thought Madsen has done a good job showing, hey, we're not just all Ashton Genty here. So it's really going to come down to how well Maddox Madsen plays. Now, if he throws a couple of picks, UNLV is going to win. But
yeah, and Go Talk here in the chat said, "Can we get some hard to beat the same team twice stats?" I think I should look that up.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. But we got a long week ahead of us. We'll work on that one. Ari, let us move to the second battle of the bricks this season. Ohio U versus Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship game. They played this game once already. The Red Hawks beat the Bobcats 30-20 on October 19th. It was the second win in what's now a 7-game win streak for Chuck Martin's team. Chuck Martin, remember, is the coach who said Alabama bought our kicker. And he was right. Ohio has not lost since that game either. Now, I think the most fun player to watch in action this year has been Parker Navarro. He's the Ohio quarterback. He is a dual threat guy. When they are good, his stat line is something like 10 of 19 for 189 yards passing and 17 carries for 155 yards rushing. Like, if that's what you get, Ohio U wins this game. Here's what happened when they played last time. Miami bottled them up. Worst per carry average for the Bobcats that they had all season, and they had to throw it over 40 times. If they have to throw it 40 times, they're losing.
Yeah. The stats from the first game, I don't recall, but like Navarro wasn't even the leading passer.
No, they were swapping it. They were swapping out.
They were swapping it back and forth. Like he didn't have a full game either. So,
right.
This is difficult because they're both playing really well right now. And as you know, Maction is just like, you might as well throw dice against the craps table. Also, like, how many years has a Gabbert been playing quarterback for Miami? Has it been like 27 years?
It's the same Gabbert. He's just been like, we're used to MAC starting quarterbacks going elsewhere. We're used to them starting elsewhere, coming to the MAC, and then potentially going elsewhere later. But he's been there the entire time. And and the age gap between him and Blaine is so different that, like, Blaine Gabbert played quarterback when Ndamukong Suh was starting for Nebraska, and Missouri was in the Big 12. We just lost Ari. Unbelievable. When we start talking Gabberts, that's when Ari dips out. We lost his camera. But yeah, it is amazing because I think we're so used to, and then remember Tyler Gabbert was sort of the bridge of the Gabberts. But yeah, I do love this because it does feel like a Gabbert has been playing college football for the last 20 years.
It does. Well, I mean, that's what happens in MAC too. Like it just there's just.
But Brett Gabbert is 24 years old, and he has been at Miami of Ohio the entire time. Like
He's had a hell of a life.
Yeah, that's one of the ultimate party schools.
Both of them.
We went on spring break with some Miami of Ohio. Like we had a bunch of Miami of Ohio people when we went to Jamaica on spring break that were in our flight in our hotel. Whew. They get after elite.
I was in my early 20s when I took the Ohio State beat job. And I had many weekends down in like the Athens. Those schools get after it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Both of these schools are elite party schools. Both.
Yeah, right. I like Miami here.
I also will take Miami to cover. It's one of those, it is hard to be the same team twice, but they did seem to find a good formula the first time. And I think that they've done it again. So we'll see if that happens. But I love that these spreads are so tiny. Like I don't feel like there's any free points out there, Ari.
No, and they're both playing really, really well at the same time too. You don't have a team limping in. You have teams that are both surging and feeling really good about what they're doing. So it makes it difficult.
All right, one more, and then we get to the big boys. Marshall at Louisiana, Sun Belt Championship. I don't know if Charles Huff's going to be Marshall's coach next week. And it's interesting because they're one of the hottest teams in the country. They won 6 in a row. They fell behind 17-0 to James Madison and then rallied to win in double overtime. They can win this conference. And I don't know if they were planning on bringing him back as of a month ago. And I still don't know if he doesn't wind up getting another job. But this is a fascinating situation. Mike DeSormo has done a good job at Louisiana the entire time since replacing Billy Napier. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. The Raging Cajuns had to replace their quarterback a couple weeks ago. Chandler Fields replaced Ben Woldridge, who got hurt. Fields has started a couple games. They've won them both. Ari, I think Marshall's still got the magic. They're a 4.5-point dog in this game. Give me the Thundering Herd to cover.
Louisiana was routinely one of the most undervalued betting teams out there all year, where their spreads were like 6 points and they would win by 35. Like Vegas had it wrong all year. And then I took a big stab at the South Alabama game and they lost outright.
They did by 2. That was where the quarterback injury happened.
I'm still financially recovering from that. So give me Marshall here. I'm really upset with you, Louisiana. Yeah, although Louisiana probably is going to win this one. They're a really good football team. They laid an egg at the worst possible time for me.
And you just can't let it go.
I'm holding a grudge, yeah.
As we move on to the Big 12 championship game, I have a request for the people. If you love this show, put a few shekels on Arizona State to cover -2.5 so we can get the spread to 3.5 so we can use our specially minted Big 12 +3.5 -3.5 coin, because I feel like that's what needs to happen for this game, because we can break down Iowa State and Arizona State. Like Iowa State, I thought was incredibly resilient in Farmageddon. Every time K-State would score, Iowa State would match, and they would keep the margin the same.
And that's who they've been all year. I know they lost a few games, but they have been even in their losses they were resilient. Like there's a lot to like about Iowa State.
I don't know who's going to win this game. I want the coin. I want it to be 3.5, just like every other Big 12 game this year. And I want to just flip the coin, because that's what the Big 12 should come down to. Essentially a coin toss.
Yeah. I put Scattaboo in my Heisman top 3 this week because I just love what this team's doing. And I think that he kind of embodies the award. It's like, he's just powering this team. And he's really good. Scattaboo. I think Iowa State is a better team. That said, doesn't Iowa State struggle quite a bit to stop the run?
When they're playing somebody who's good at it.
I think they're very bad at it.
Although they played DJ Giddens last week and Avery Johnson and they won.
Yeah.
So it's not 100% that if you have a decent running game, you're going to shred them.
They rank 96th in rushing defense in the country, and they're playing against a team that has powered by a really good running back. I think Iowa State, though, is a better team, and they're getting points. So as much as I hate to, and people are like, hey, Ari went to Arizona, he must hate Arizona State. No, I mean, I was so in like journalism school, like I never, like the thing that I regret about my life, Andy, in the sense of like when I was in college was that like I didn't have a connection to my team, my
fandom, because you didn't grow up an Arizona fan either, right?
I didn't. I mean, I know, and there was nothing really to root for. I mean, like it's not like Arizona State was king shit when I was a kid, right? They almost won a national title in '97 when I was like 9 years old.
96.
So, yeah, the '97 Rose Bowl, '96 season that always confuses me.
I remember it well because thanks to Ohio State winning that Rose Bowl, I have a national championship ring. So
yeah, you should show people that on the show because I still have never seen it.
Oh, well, we'll bring it out one of these days.
But I like was so bought into trying to become a sports writer that I never got to go like to the games and get hammered and do what kids do that form that bond to the team. I think Arizona State's uniforms are great. I love Arizona State as a campus.
Well, they're great when they put Sparky on the helmet.
Yeah, the ones that are on that is the great uniform on the graphic right there. The one they showed with the fork on it. Like, what are we doing, guys? It's just it's malpractice. Like, so I think that like Arizona State's strength plays into Iowa State's weakness, but I think Iowa State is a resilient team that I thought was going to win the Big 12 all along. And the fact that they were gifted an opportunity and fought back to be here is every bit as exciting, interesting, noteworthy, something that you should applaud is what Arizona State has done. So, like, I know we're all in ASU mania right now, but I think I like Iowa State to win the game outright.
I am going to flip the coin. And you know whose head's on the coin?
Sparky.
Give me the Sun Devils. So
it's going to be a great game, though. It's going to be a great game.
I'm so excited because I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not even going to pretend that I know what's going to happen. And that's what I want from this league. I want this league's championship to mirror this league's season, where it's just wild, crazy, massive swings, emotional momentum, you name it. And then somebody wins at the end. I cannot wait.
Yep.
And they're going to the playoffs. Let us move to Indianapolis, where, as we said, you can get on Gametime right now and get a $19 ticket to the Big Ten championship game. The Buckeyes have flooded the market because they're not there.
Is it really $19?
$19. Penn State and Oregon. Ari, Oregon's a 3.5-point favorite in this game. We pretty much everybody seems to agree that Oregon's the best team in the country, but I do think, like, we were expecting Oregon to be playing Ohio State here. I wonder if Ohio State would have been favored had they played. I don't think Vegas is all in on Oregon yet, especially looking at the spread. My question about Penn State is, has Penn State discovered something here in the last couple of weeks? Because maybe it's just me being overly reactionary, but I feel like a different James Franklin emerged from the final drive at Minnesota. And like, he's had the goatee, so it's not like he grew a beard and became evil James Franklin, but I kind of like evil James Franklin. Like, maybe you should grow the beard longer and become the goatee longer and become evil James Franklin. Because I kind of like that guy and have more confidence in that guy.
Why is the spread 3.5?
Oh, what does Vegas know that we don't?
I mean, I would have thought that the spread would be like 7 or 7.5. This is a huge departure from what I would have anticipated. And it makes you question, because like everything that you're saying, like this like swagger of like defending, running up the score and fake punting, with the game on the line a few weeks ago, like James Franklin turning into this heel is like awesome.
Yeah.
like go be that guy, James. Like, that's great. Like, you've been a punching bag to so many people. Like, I have criticized this guy endlessly. And the fact of the matter is that he's done a good job making Penn State a solid second-tier team. The problem is I'm not 100% sure we know what Penn State's ceiling is as a program. And I think it's possible, and I've had this thought, that James Franklin is getting beaten up while simultaneously having Penn State at its ceiling. Like, they're beating them up for irrational standards and not
I don't think they're
Okay.
I don't think the idea of ceilings are the same in this era.
And that's a good point. Like, maybe it is like we're a quarterback and a receiver away from winning a national title. Yeah. Like, and like you can get
Stevens' point. I don't know, Andy. We can't match the speed of Oregon. Defensively, Penn State can absolutely match Oregon's speed. Penn State's defense is elite. Okay, here's a question. Who has the highest draft pick in this game?
Penn State.
Abdul Carter.
Yeah.
So, and they have a bunch of draft picks on their defense. And I'm not saying Oregon's not talented. Oregon's very talented and perhaps more talented than Penn State. But to act like Penn State is like some ham and egger team that doesn't have athletes, like they have elite athletes on this team.
Yeah, you should not probably be worried about whether or not Penn State's defense can hang and make this respectable. The thing that I am always and will eternally be on alert for with Penn State is whether or not they can score enough. Like that's the thing. It's like it's very easy to get your groove back when you're playing teams that don't have talent. And let's just call it what it is. And it's like there is a temperament shift with their coach. I've noticed it too. I'm with you. But how different is Penn State actually from the team that lost to Ohio State by 7? And can they keep up with the team that we think is probably the favorite to win the national championship?
What's your pick, Ari?
Oregon.
Evil
Oregon
James
by
Franklin.
7-10.
Evil James Franklin's going to walk in to Lucas Oil Stadium and face Dan Lanning, who already has a beard. And Dan Lanning, they have a go for it on 4th down off. Because again, Evil James Franklin going for it on 3 4th downs in the final drive against Minnesota. Like, very, very Dan Lanning of him. I'm ready for this game, Ari. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Take?
Yeah.
I don't care what Penn State does in this game. Like, my opinion of James Franklin is not going to be formed in Indianapolis. It's going to be formed in January and December.
Playoffs.
Like, it's great that they get to play. They have a chance to win a Big Ten championship game. I know it's important to people in State College, as it should be. The time for if Penn State loses this game by 7 to like hammer Franklin is going to be misguided. Like, I'm going to start writing the column right now. Like, it's like what this team is judged by will be whether or not, like, you know, if I was going to say that Penn State was the number one beneficiary of the expanded playoff and they were just going to waltz in every year without having to be better, then the litmus test of whether or not they've accomplished that is not going to be found here. Now, winning the Big Ten to a certain extent would, right? Because the thought was they don't have to win the Big Ten to get in anymore, and it's fine for them because they're still going to get in the playoffs. So if they win the Big Ten and beat Oregon, like that would be, I think that you can earn something here. But I think if you lose to the number one team in the country in a conference championship game, that doesn't necessarily tell us the tale of what I'm going to ultimately judge James Franklin by, which is, can you win a playoff game against teams that are more on your footing?
Ari,
there's
what matters in any profession? Reps. Just like we needed to see Dan Lanning win the Ohio State game in the regular season this year to show he could win one of those games. We need to see James Franklin win one of these games. And I don't care where it is. Now's as good a time as any. Because if you can win one of these, you can win more than one.
But I'm not going to burn James Franklin down if he doesn't, is what I'm saying.
No,
like,
and you shouldn't.
Like, yeah.
But I think this is a great opportunity for him. I know you don't care what happens here, but I do. I think this is a great opportunity for him.
All I was saying was he can earn a lot here. I think he can prove a lot. Winning the Big Ten this year would be a hell of an accomplishment for Penn State, something they can be proud of.
And this is a long.
I'm making is losing it isn't the place to burn him. If they lose to Tennessee in the first round, or they play a team like that in the first round and lose, those are the teams that Penn State's supposed to be able to beat right now.
Yeah.
Like that. So like to me, it's like if you lose to Oregon, good teams lose to good teams. The way that they lost to Ohio State. Go beat.
Your job's
whoever
to
your
win the
matchup
national
is in the first
championship.
round.
You should be able to beat all these teams. Harsh, but that's the way it is. And this is a long way to go for me to say, I'll also take Oregon to cover.
But I also disagree with the notion that Penn State is paying him to win a national championship.
If you're getting paid that much money, even if you're Mark Stoops, you're getting paid to win the national championship.
I mean, they offered it to him, the 10-year God contract, after he'd already proven that wasn't in the cards. So
yeah,
you
the world's changed. The world's changed. His job's to win the national championship.
But I'm saying when he earns
said,
the money that he's getting paid annually.
All right, I'm trying to make my pick here.
Eyes wide open. Okay.
I also will take Oregon to cover. As much as I am intrigued by potentially evil James Franklin, I still think Oregon's going to win the game.
Me too.
Okay. What do you want to do? ACC or SEC? Where do you want to go?
Let's do ACC. I think we disagree.
All right. We go to Charlotte. Clemson playing SMU. The Ponies are a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Are you surprised by that, Ari?
A little. Yeah.
Because that's the stars matter not mattering.
Yeah, but when's the last time you heard me say stars matter?
I know. Well, that's the thing. You have made a shift, but has Vegas also made a shift? Because this is when I feel like a year, if you do this year ago, 2 years ago, even if SMU's in the same conference back then, the Vegas would have looked at the recruiting rankings and been like, Clemson by 7.
Yeah. The thing about that is that like SMU's team is also built up with a bunch of like highly rated kids from Miami. And Clemson didn't really do much to improve their teams in the portal. So like the recruiting ranking situation here is a little bit muddied because SMU isn't a product of just recruiting rankings. But I don't know if SMU has played a team as good as Clemson since September or October, right? What's the last time they played a team as good as Clemson?
I say Louisville is probably the closest in terms of athlete for athlete, but Clemson is still
probably more athletic.
Even though Clemson lost to Louisville, I think Clemson would probably be a little bit better, just pure athlete for athlete. So that's.
I'm wondering if Dabo Swinney's deep history of existing and playing in environments like this comes into play at all too. Because like SMU probably comes into this game feeling like the weight of the world is on their shoulders. And maybe that to a certain extent Clemson does too, because this is their like extra gift chance to make the playoff when they've been dead in this race seemingly for the last month or so. I think Clemson is more equipped at the moment to exist in these games. Does that mean they're going to win? Maybe not, but I will take the 2.5.
Yeah, my question for Clemson is how does Clemson get up off the mat after the South Carolina game? Because Clemson was in control of that game, it felt like, for a lot of the game. And then it got away at the end. So they need this. And I don't think, like, we were joking as Clemson was leading South Carolina on Saturday, like, Dabo's going to be insufferable after this because he's going to win this, and then Miami's going to lose, and they're going to go to the ACC championship game, and they're going to get into the playoff. And I don't think he would. Listen, I've said this a bunch of times. With rev share coming, Clemson is going to be a player in the transfer portal going forward. They're going to take transfers starting this offseason. They're going to be back, I think, in terms of talent level. This may be the last time we see them where they are not one of the most talented teams in the country for a while. That said, I think SMU can beat them. I think SMU showed all season.
They can. Yeah, they can, for sure.
But SMU's been really consistent this year. You know, their one loss is to a good BYU team, and they barely lost that game. And it was early in the season where, you know, SMU's first game in week 0, you know, they probably almost didn't win. But since then, they've gotten very consistent. They've been kind of mowing people down. So
I know we're not in moral victory mode, but do we feel good that Clemson played a 4-quarter game that they could have, maybe even should have won with South Carolina over the weekend? Or does that not register?
I expected them to play them tough. I didn't expect South Carolina to roll over Clemson. I did expect South Carolina to beat Clemson, but I thought Clemson would play them tough, and they did.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a good game. I don't know what's going to happen. I've been talking about how SMU is the most underranked team and the most mistreated team in the field for a month now. And this is an opportunity for them to prove that that's the case. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll take points when you have an experienced coach who has been here a lot with a team that I thought played pretty well on Saturday.
Are you hear that? Click, 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 click. You hear it? That's the Pony Express. Riding into the playoff with no debate necessary. Give me the Mustangs.
Love that. We did a carriage ride through Highland Park last night, and I heard that noise a lot. The click, 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 click. And then the fume of bowel movement in my face for an hour. It was great.
Well, I mean, look, you were right by SMU. You had a pony. I think you're picking Clemson because you're mad because that pony pooped in your general vicinity near SMU.
The
That's why
SMU stadium is legitimately 5 minutes from my house. So, I'm in SMU mania right now. I might go to Burger House for lunch just to, pay homage.
Just to get the feelings. All right. You got the Tigers. I'll take the Ponies. Let us move to Atlanta. Georgia, Texas 2. Texas is favored. And I got to admit, Ari, I was pretty surprised when I saw that.
I know.
Texas is a 2.5-point favorite in this game.
We watched the Georgia Tech game together, man. Like, that team exists. And the more I think about the Texas-Georgia game from the beginning of the year, the more I feel like Texas shit their pants and that Georgia didn't just beat them. But I think
can we stitch together the two games we watched on consecutive nights?
Yes.
Let's stitch together.
They both have
Georgia
elite offenses.
Right. Let's stitch together the Georgia Tech game that we saw and also the Texas A&M game that we saw. If Texas plays the same game against Georgia that they played against Texas A&M with 2 critical turnovers in plus territory in the second half, with getting a punt blocked in the second half, like, Georgia will win that game.
Yeah. No, you're right. I like Texas, Andy. I can't lie to you.
Texas's defense is awesome. And that's the other thing. Remember, Texas defense did make it hard on Georgia in the first game. Carson Beck threw a bunch of interceptions in the first game. The only reason Georgia won that game is because Georgia's defense made Texas's offense throw up all over itself. And Georgia cashed in the short field situations and made those turnovers turn into points where Texas didn't. And that is,
I think if
that
Texas
is the situation
does not
here.
Allow Georgia to score 21 points by gaining 50 total yards, they'll lose or they'll win. Sorry, Texas will do that.
That Texas second half
under,
against
by
A&M.
the way.
Yeah, I do too. The Texas second half bugged me a lot.
Yeah, it was grab ass central.
I don't like that, but I do like the way they were running on Texas A&M's defense. I thought Texas getting loose in the run game and making some holes, and even after Kelvin Banks went down, being able to block well, I think that was very promising because, look, you saw Georgia Tech get physical with Georgia up front.
Has there been an injury update on Banks? Is he out this week?
We haven't seen it yet. Now, obviously,
figure that out.
Wednesday you'll get that one.
Big deal.
I think he's probably out. So, all right, Ari. I'm still trying to decide. Do you have a pick? Because I'm gonna have to make one here, but I'm very much ping ponging back and forth right now.
I have a pick. I'm taking Texas. I'll lay the 2.5.
I don't know what to do here because I feel like if both teams play the same game they played last week, Texas wins?
They should shoot the SEC into the sun if that happens.
Oh, they would hate it. It would be bad. It would be such an ugly game. Oh boy.
I think that the final score of this game is going to be like 24-20 or something.
So I may just take the tack you took on the ACC game, where the coach who's been in this situation has more experience in it.
Mm-hmm.
Will know what to do, because we've seen Kirby not handle this SEC championship game as well as he could. Last year was a good example of that too.
I am very interested in the Arch Manning package and what that element could do for to open up some things for Texas's offense.
The thing is, so I think they had to use that against the defense they were playing. They knew they were playing good defense. They had to use it. Quinn Ewers' ankle was slightly injured. But I think Georgia, knowing that's a possibility, is so what you got to do with this one, and I'm sure Sark is thinking of this, is you bring him out in that situation, but you don't run read option. You throw it.
Throw it. Yep.
So how willing are you to let it loose and let it hang out? Because again, Texas is making the playoff whether they win or lose this game.
And Georgia is, right? We feel comfortable about that?
I think so too. I think so. Yeah. So I would love to see Sark just let it rip. Just to see what you can be.
Yeah.
Because you're going to play a bunch of tough games in the playoff if ultimately it works the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Ari, I think I've talked myself into it. Give me the Longhorns.
Oh, I didn't think you were going that way.
I didn't think I was either. But the more I think about it, like, if they are running the ball the way they were running the ball the other night, that's going to be hard for Georgia to stop. Georgia's defense has not been as good. Producer River asked if I'm taking the spread of the money line. Give me the spread. I'm not that sure. Give me the couple of points. I'll take.
Well, you're laying the points in the scenario, Andy. You're giving them points. Do you want?
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Why would I take the Texas money line? They are the favorite. And again, that's in my head. Like I'm still surprised they're the favorite in this game, given what happened in the first game. But it does feel like Vegas is learning, like not automatically assuming that Georgia or Alabama just crushes everybody.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see. The Arch thing is fascinating to me. Fascinating.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think the thought of throwing it when everybody thinks he's going to run is intriguing.
All right. Yeah, give me Texas -2.5. I'm ready to be wrong. It's not like College Game Day where they have all of the picks across. There's just two of us. We're going to agree sometimes. I don't think we've cursed Texas here.
Yeah.
Though we have cursed teams in the past, including Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, when we go to games, we do.
And we're not going to this one. So, congratulations,
all the
I
games
guess.
that we've been to, have we gone to a game that the away team hasn't won? Oh, Ole Miss, we didn't curse.
We didn't, and they won by a lot.
Every game that we've gone to outside of the Ole Miss, the home team got their butts kicked by the visiting team.
We'll see what happens. I think this is going to be a fun one. I don't care that it's a rematch. I know some people do. I don't. Looks like a fun game between two very good teams. Ari, it's championship week. This is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be in Nashville in studio talking about it on Saturday. We have a lot to talk about this week. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the jobs that are open now and what they mean. You are excited about what Purdue can be, which I think is fascinating. But I want to pick your brain on Purdue, on North Carolina, on UCF, on West Virginia, because I think we need to talk about what it means to take over a program in this era of college football, because I think things have changed.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm excited. We also, I don't know, maybe you should talk for 10 minutes about who we think is going to be ranked where, because
we definitely should. We'll try to we will try to predict the college football playoff rankings. Ari will sound glorious on his new microphone. His hands will be free to wildly gesticulate. Everything's coming up, Ari.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.